Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we're diving into the world of TG Therapeutics, a company with a name that sounds like it belongs in a sci-fi movie. But don't worry, there's no actual therapeutics for t-shirts. We'll decode their recent filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC. It's a bit like reading someone's diary, only instead of secrets about crushes, we get insights into cash flow. TG Therapeutics is gearing up for its annual stockholder meeting in June of 2025. This document is what they're sending out to get people to vote on important company matters. It includes everything from electing directors to approving their accounting firm. Let's get into it. First off, stockholders are invited to a virtual annual meeting and will be asked to elect 6 directors, essentially deciding who gets a seat at the table. They're also asked to ratify the appointment of KPMG LF as independent registered public accounting firm for the year. Think of it as shareholders double-checking that the company's numbers are being crunched by someone trustworthy. Plus, stockholders get an advisory vote on executive compensation, a say-on-pay vote, and will be asked to approve an amendment to their incentive plan to increase the number of available common stock shares, making sure there are enough slices in the pie for everyone. Your vote is super secret. No one will know how you voted. Also, to have a meeting, you need a quorum. This means that more than half of all the shares have to be represented at the meeting, either in person, virtually, or by proxy. The company's board of directors includes a mix of experienced professionals. There's Michael Weiss, the chairman, CEO, and president, steering the ship since 2011. You've also got Lawrence Charney, a financial guru who used to be a senior partner at Ernst & Young. Then there's Jan Ekelard, bringing over 30 years of research and biopharmaceutical experience to the table, and Kenneth Hoberman, currently COO and corporate secretary of Stemline Therapeutics. Daniel Hume, a managing partner at a law firm, and finally Dr. Sagar Lonil, who brings the medical expertise to the table. And Kenneth Hoberman, currently COO and Corporate Secretary of Stemline Therapeutics. Daniel Hume, a managing partner at a law firm. And finally, Dr. Sagar Lonil, who brings the medical expertise to the table. Let's talk about the money folks are getting paid, starting with the accounting firm. KPMG LP, who are probably very busy people, billed TG Therapeutics around $1.3 million for audit services in 2024. In 2023, it was only $878,000. That's a sizable jump and might reflect a more complicated financial picture. KPMG also got a little extra for other stuff, like 2,730 related or tax fees. Every service that KPMG might provide has to get pre-approved by the audit committee. Here's a quick look at the people at the top. Michael Weiss is the chairman, chief executive officer, and president, while Sean Power is the chief financial officer, treasurer, and corporate secretary. The company achieved Brigham v. United States net product revenue of $310 million for the full year of 2024, representing approximately 250%. Also, they launch Phasm 50%. Growth year over yielding subcutaneous oblotuxim. They're expanding, which is a good sign. Also, they launched a phase 1 trial evaluating subcutaneous oblotuximab in patients with relapsing forms of multiple sclerosis. Clinical trials are a good sign that there is innovation ongoing, but keep in mind trials can fail and money can be wasted. The company's executives are compensated with a mix of base salary, annual cash bonus, and long-term equity. The goal is to attract and retain top talent, align their interests with those of stockholders, and reward them for achieving business goals. Most of the executive compensation is performance-based. That means if the company does well, the executives do well. If the company does bad, you get it. Michael Weiss, the big boss, got a base salary of $875,000. Not bad, huh? But he didn't get a raise. Sean Power, the CFO, saw his base salary jump from $445,578 to $480,000, an increase to better match what similar companies are paying their CFOs. Alright, it's bonus time. Michael Weiss had a target annual cash incentive of 100% of his base salary. For Sean Power, his target was 50% of his base salary, but how much did they actually get? Well, the company performed at 125% against its goals, so the executives got a nice bonus based on that achievement. TG Therapeutics wants their executives to think long-term, so they hand out stock and restricted stock awards, or RSAs. Michael Weiss received an award of 1,908 shares of restricted stock with vesting based on Power not to be left out. Received 75,000 shares of restricted stock, which will vest over 4 years. Let's dive into the numbers. In 2024, Michael S. Weiss, as chairman, chief executive officer, and president, raked in a total of $18,752,897 and stock awards, worth $16,781,959.959. Sean A. Power, the Chief Financial Officer, Treasurer, and Corporate Secretary, made $2,075,950. Looking at stock that hasn't been fully earned yet, Weiss has 1,556,029 shares, valued at nearly $47 million that will vest over time based on his performance, while Power has some chunks of restricted stock he needs to stick around to fully earn over the next couple of years. The CEO made 58 times the median employee. It is what it is. The SEC now requires companies to show how executive pay lines up with performance metrics like total shareholder return and net income. The CEO's compensation actually paid was $91,737.03. Remember the number we talked about earlier? This one is different. This actually paid compensation figure includes not just the salary and bonus from that year, but also the changing value of stock options and awards granted in prior years. Total shareholder return was $271, the salary and bonus from that year, but also the changing value of stock options and awards granted in prior years. Total shareholder return was $271.71, but net income was $23.04 million. TG Therapeutics pays their non-employee directors for their service on the board. In 2024, directors like Lawrence Charney, Kenneth Hoberman, and others each earned a mix of cash and stock awards, generally totaling between $465,000 and $511,000 each. These are deals where the company does business with someone who has a close relationship with the company, like a director or major stockholder. TG Therapeutics has an office agreement with Fortress Biotech where they share office space. This agreement to share the costs of some administrative functions. Mr. Weiss is the CEO of TG Therapeutics and also a director and vice president of Fortress Biotech. So this might raise an eyebrow for conflict of interest. Shareholders are being asked to vote on whether to approve Amendment No. 2 to the company's 2022 incentive plan to increase the aggregate number of shares authorized for issuance in connection with options and awards granted under the 2022 incentive plan from 17 million shares to 22 million shares. If shareholders approve of this amendment, the new shares will represent 3% of the outstanding common stock and increases total overhang to 11.6%. The amendment would have an effect of having available shares to be given out as compensation to those who are critical to the company's success. So what's the story here? TG Therapeutics is a company pinning its hopes on the success of one primary drug, and Briumvi is their current blockbuster. Based on what was discussed today, what is my impression? First off, the company is heavily reliant on a single product, Briumvi, which, while showing good growth, makes them vulnerable if something goes wrong with it. They're throwing money into new trials, which could pay off big, but also eat up cash if the trials fail. Secondly, their reliance on related party transactions creates potential conflicts of interest. Finally, compensation packages seem pretty hefty, and the high CEO to median employee pay ratio and big swings in actually paid versus reported income might raise some eyebrows. Overall, TG Therapeutics shows promise and faces some very real risks. Their success hinges on the continued sales growth of Briumvi and the pipeline of new drugs, while financial stability and good governance practices need improvement. That's all for today's Corporate Decoder. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of corporate filings. Until next time.